Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
Cube Monk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by heirs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at heirs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and today is March 30. Thank God, March is almost over. Spring is here. So this is Global TV Talk Show. Very special program today, focusing in on the USA and domestic relocations, the domestic relocation industry, and the backbone is real estate brokerage. So it's all about that and the importance of the real estate broker and the relocation director. It's where the rubber meets the road, as I call it. And we have Teresa Howe with us from Southern California. And she is TRH Consulting, which is an expertise for owners of real estate brokerages and relocation directors. And with us as well is Kathy Connelly from the Atlanta area and Berkshire Hathaway. So welcome, Kathy.
Hi, Ed. Thank you.
This is your first time on our TV show. You've spoken at our live meetings in the past, going back in time. And I thank you very much for doing this.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You've been a leader of residential real estate, particularly with a focus on relocation. And now you find yourself on the board of Worldwide ERC. But before we get to that, tell us how you got into the real estate business.
Well, it was actually quite by chance. After being a stay-at-home mom, I applied for a job to work for the CFO of a company called Gallery of Homes, going back a ways.
I remember.
Worked one of the first real estate franchisors. And shortly after I joined, they acquired a small relocation company that became Empire Relocation. That was in Orlando, Florida, prior to my move to Atlanta. And they had me start the home finding department. So we actually started charging referral fees for buyer transactions way back in the day. So it's hard for me to complain about that today. But interesting, it's kind of fun to be on here with Teresa today because Teresa Howe was one of the first people who ever called on me at the RMC to discuss what services she could provide for our transferees in her market area. So it's great to be on here with Teresa today.
Always selling, always selling.
That's terrific. So Kathy, in the past, you've been president and board member of RDC, Relocation Directors Council. And I know it to be the premier grouping of professional realtors involved in relocation. Is that right?
It is indeed.
Yeah.
We're very proud of that.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll get into that a little later.
Okay.
So as a board member, this is pretty awesome frankly, and really nice to know you.
Thank you.
So, in those rarefied hallways that you're in these days, is it recognized that the real estate broker, in particular the relocation directors, are where the rubber meets the road as the actual backbone of the industry?
Well, first of all, I'm delighted to be on the board and to have that opportunity. Actually, very honored. And it's an organization that I've gotten so much from personally and professionally over the years. So it's nice to be in a position to share a voice back and hopefully represent the other real estate companies who are members. But real estate's just one of many voices involved in the industry, as we well know. But real estate happens to represent one of the highest cost factors in the move process, and also one of the most personal, as we're dealing directly with transferees and their lives and how that's changing. So I think it's important for us to have a voice at the table and to be able to collaborate with the other members who have equal importance in the entire move process. And I think really, it allows us a format to really have a greater understanding of each other's challenges and opportunities that we might share, and particularly in the talent management and mobility space. So hopefully it will allow us to have some creativity and innovation in the way we're handling these moves, and ultimately speak with one voice and deliver some unbiased insights. And certainly Worldwide ERC has provided, I think, access to peers and partners and lots of networking over the years. And it certainly also allows us to distinguish ourselves with our own professionalism and designations through the CRP and the GMS designation.
Right. It's not only been a track to run on, but a motivation to do better, to do more, and to share more,
That's right.
which has historically been a very private, because of all the money involved and the legalities, a private enterprise. So let's talk about the relocation business as a result of COVID and
Yes.
the craziness this past year, and what looks like a light at the end of the tunnel coming. So things are going to get different. Obviously, what we've all seen is a booming residential marketplace this
Right.
past year, particularly right now, moving
Mhm.
into the home buying season. Prices are just going to go up because of a relative lack of inventory, right?
That's right. Yes, we are all challenged. Obviously stay in touch with many of my relocation director friends across the country, and we're all challenged with some of the similar things today, which is a lack of inventory. And we are seeing rising prices. We're seeing all the things that you would expect to see. People offering over list price. We're a little bit challenged with appraisal values coming in to meet the sales prices in such a fast-paced market. We're seeing builders whose costs are rising, the cost of building materials, the cost of
Right.
labor, a lot of delays associated with that, and many builders who aren't even willing to lock in a price at this point.
Yeah, because of COVID.
That's
Right.
partially
Right.
because of COVID, and then just the lack of inventory in general. Yes.
Yeah. So are relocations happening? Relocation property transactions, are they happening virtually now?
Yes, I mean, we people are, it's like getting vaccinated and feeling a little bit more free to travel. We are certainly seeing people return to the marketplace and in a more traditional sense than we saw in the early days of COVID, when, fortunately for us here in Georgia, we were considered an essential business by our governor, so we never stopped selling real estate, but it was a little difficult to get people here across state lines, depending on where they were coming from and the challenges that they were going to be faced with even traveling here, allowed us to, kind of pivot into a more digital space, showing homes virtually, having contingencies based on them being able to see the property, doing virtual walkthroughs, drive up closing. So there was a lot of things that we had to get real creative on really quickly. But now we're starting to see a few things return to a bit more normal. But honestly, Ed, I have to tell you, I think, and Teresa would probably agree with us, as an industry, we've been very slow to adapt to technologies. And I think it kind of forced us a little bit. So I think some of us are really excited about, some of the things lingering well past the pandemic and helping us change the way we've done some business.
Great.
What's so funny about it, the technology's existed for so long. It's just, we just couldn't get the adoption. And so now they were forced to adopt. So hopefully it will stay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go back to Teresa now. Tell us about why you have TRH Consulting at this point in life.
When you get laid off twice in 3 years, it makes you say, wait a minute, I don't want to work for anybody else but me. But, actually, I saw a need because there were opportunities that I could have, taken other jobs. And I just saw that I felt like there was a need out there for companies that maybe were solely focused on relocation, and they didn't have to be, because as Kathy knows, the beautiful thing about a relocation staff is they are super flexible people. They know customer service, they know how to handle high volume. They're a group of people that can do many things. And that's why, when I was, a Coldwell Banker for many, many years, we managed internet leads, and we had the concierge program, and we had a license holding company, and we had all these things. And even though some of the staff was segmented, I was able to manage all of it because they were all people with kind of the same skill set, but specialized. So, I think relocation divisions and brokerages offer an opportunity to not, Kathy is the VP of Corporate Services, and that's the right title for her to have, because we really should quit calling them us, relocation divisions and relocation directors, because you have the ability to do so much company generated business that brings in other revenue sources.
So let's talk about that and do a drill down. And Paul, if you could put up a couple of these slides that I like in the background when you're ready. So Teresa, the role of the relocation director is corporate services, right? So why don't you extend your comments about what you just said about, if you do it right, then there's a lot of money involved to benefit the real estate company.
Well, and Kathy can comment on that as well, is that, corporate relocation stalled pretty significantly when COVID hit early on. But what we saw was what picked up the kind of the slack there for brokerages is the self-motivated moves. And that was people that were deciding that they wanted to move, because they wanted a place to teach their kids, or they wanted a private office, or they wanted a bigger yard. So the relocation division was able to pivot to focus more on broker to broker referrals. So when you talk to most of the relocation divisions, their business wasn't off during COVID. It just changed. The makeup of the business changed. And that's why, I'm a big proponent of relocation divisions managing other lines of business for brokerages. And I think, there's no reason to kind of segment relocation exclusively. I think you can, they have the skill set, as Kathy knows, because she has a group that does all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the services are business services, and
Right.
and it could be very, very helpful. So in your training, you're consulting with important real estate brokers and real estate agents. I found this quote in your post. I think it was today or yesterday. Do you want to do a little bit of a deep dive on this?
Well, I think, the blog post is basically about setting the tone of how you communicate with your department and with your staff and with the relocation agents and with your leadership. And it's all about, you don't have to be punitive in the way you deal with your real estate agents. They deal with really big transactions. And so these relocation directors that I've encountered, and I know Kathy has as well, they kind of like, they lead by threat. They beat them with a stick instead of lead them with a carrot. And I think, you don't have to do that with real estate agents. They get it. They want to make people happy. They understand it. So I think, it's all about really creating a culture in your organization that embraces, and that's RDC. It's, a big part of that is teaching relocation directors how to engage with their agents and with their customers in a way that's really a positive effect in the brand, in the company, in the real estate company.
Yeah, and so we're going to leave this up just a little bit. Kathy, if you want to jump in on this, this is taken from the site, of course, and I thought it would be a cool thing to do because of both of your experience with RDC and the role it's playing now, particularly with you on the board. So would you like to describe what we're looking at here and the meaningfulness of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, to what Teresa was saying earlier, I mean, we're already in an industry with, agents, real estate agents who tend to be service oriented anyway. And it's really our job as the relocation directors to identify the people that, are in alignment with what we need to deliver great service to our clients. And, all agents are not created equally. They all specialize in different areas, but relocation is certainly one of those areas that we want them, to specialize in. Or maybe they're on our e-business team, to Teresa's earlier point about being diversified in the type of business that you're handling. So I think a lot of what we do is identify someone's strengths and then try to align them with the opportunity at hand. So RDC has honestly over the years has just been an incredible organization, not only to meet other people in other companies. I mean, Teresa and I have never worked for the same brand of company, but we got to know each other even better through RDC because it's really all brands, all independents, everybody comes together and shares in a collaborative manner. And we have some really defined benefits for those people who are members, and you can see them here in front of you. But I think over the years, the relocation management companies and the corporate clients that we do business with have, come to recognize the RDC organization of kind of the creme de la creme. And, they can expect to get a similar service because we also subscribe to the same high level of service when we're given an opportunity from one of these, either an RMC or a corporate client.
Thank you, Kathy. Teresa, what changes would you like to see in our industry? And also, if you could segue into if you were meeting a young person and they were asking you about what's the future capability, what would you tell a young person about the industry?
Well, I mean, I actually want to defer to Kathy on that because since she's in ERC and she really is, I think, kind of the voice of the brokerage community right now and in the WERC board. And I think, we're so lucky to have her there because Kathy's not one to be shy. And that's a good thing for us, because she will speak her mind, and that is important whenever you're representing any organization. She's the voice of the people right now, and I think with the changes of COVID and the leadership in ERC, and there's been so many changes in our industry in the last year. I think we're really at a kind of a crossroads now. I think in our relationships with brokers, relationships with relocation management companies, and with the corporations. So I'd really like to hear Kathy talk about that a little bit.
Okay, Kathy.
So Ed, when you're talking about young people getting into the business, I assume you mean the relocation director side of the business with a brokerage?
Correct.
Okay. So, it's interesting. Teresa and I both have been doing this for a long time. And I remember going to a business development course years ago with Bobby Kearns for some of the audience who may remember her. And I still use a lot of that today. I think, the world has changed, as Teresa said, but it's important to oftentimes kind of get back to some of those basics. And for anybody getting in the business today, I mean, first of all, I think you have to have a servant heart to be in this business because you are going to be serving the needs of people who are moving at a critical time in their life. And, I say to our agents all the time, I make a lot of commitments on your behalf because I promise service that they're ultimately going to have to deliver. And so as we look at bringing new people into our department in particular, I'm looking for somebody who, has technical skills that I may not have. I want somebody who can kind of complement what we're doing. I mean, the population of the mobility group that's moving is different today. I mean, a lot of these folks, have been accustomed to operating out of the palm of their hand on their phone, right? And traditionally, that's not what we've done. So I think it's important to bring people in. And you want somebody who's going to be adaptable and flexible to the changes. You can't just get real rooted. I mean, again, we've been doing this a long time, but I think one of the reasons that Teresa and I are still here is because we've tried to stay relevant. We've, tried to be a perpetual student and learn as we go. And, we've been willing to share with one another. And so I think anybody getting in the business today needs to understand it may be a little bit different the way we deliver service, but the people are still the same. And this is a people business. And we really need to make sure that we're attracting folks who, have the right motivation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
So let's talk about technology and how it's impacted the industry and how it might still impact the industry on the other side of COVID.
So a couple of things. One is I think, there's technology in real estate and there's technology in relocation. So on the real estate side of things, I think, we have a ways to go. And I think we should all kind of open our eyes and learn from some new entrants into our business. So some of the, viewers are probably familiar with the term iBuyer. And so we've seen some, new companies come into our space offering an alternative way to do real estate, and they essentially become the buyer, but they have very sophisticated software programs that allow them to use algorithms to estimate the value of a property, for example. So they're able to actually, you can go in, if you're familiar with Kelley Blue Book for your car, you can go in and put a few facts about your vehicle and it will give you a value. Same thing with real estate, except they're making bona fide offers that way. And I'm certainly not here to advocate for the iBuyers, but they're attracting consumers because they're taking some of the pain points out of the process. So I think as a relocation industry and real estate, we need to really look at, what are the pain points of our business and how can we smooth that out and make it an easier process for the seller? I mean, let's think about it, Ed. the compete for a listing of relocation has pretty much been the same as long as we've all been doing this, right? We haven't seen, a lot of dramatic change in that. And so I think we're ready for sort of reinvention of ourselves and how we're delivering that service. Same thing on the buy side. We're seeing a lot of online companies. So whether you take realtor.com or Zillow or one of those, they're leveraging technology, and they're actually interesting. I visited one of them and sat and shadowed with some of their employees, and they are literally making warm connections with introducing the real estate agent to the consumer or to the lender while they're online with them. So it's a warm handoff. And we're not seeing any of those technologies, in the more traditional side of the business or even the relocation space. And so I think we have a lot to learn there.
Yeah, Teresa, are you training people in the real estate community?
Training
the realtors, the relocation directors to get more modern?
Well, I think I have helped several of my clients evaluate how they're tracking their business. Some it was as antiquated as Excel spreadsheets. It's fine as long as you're doing this much business, but when you do a lot of business, that becomes a problem. So I have certainly, I think, helped them get to the right software they need and utilize the tools that they need. I think I'm a big proponent of when you have a relocation team, there's still a bunch of independent contractors, right? But you can establish what your expectation is around the technology that they use to make sure that they're using the listing presentation that that the company promotes, and that they're not still using things that are not. Most real estate companies have great technology. Do all the agents use it? No, because they don't have to. So I think it's the relocation division's role to make sure that the agents on the team are all using the technology that's readily available to them, that's to the benefit of the transferees. Honestly, you agree, Kathy?
Yes, and let me just say, Ed, one of the things that we've done, speaking of younger people in our organizations and newer people to the business, one of the folks that works with me, Janet Malden, is vice president of relocation now, and we had a group move in the midst of this pandemic, if you can imagine, and so we were trying to figure out, because we couldn't put people in the agents' cars and have them social distance properly, right? So we had to explain to the RMC that we were working with that, when they come here for a tour, normally the agent would have them in the car and explain things to them as they're driving around. Well, that just wasn't possible. So this is where the innovation comes in. We said, how are we going to do this? So Janet got online and started researching and found a company that helped us develop an audio tour. So it's an app that people can download on their phone. And as they're driving around, it's GPS enabled. So as they approach a particular, venue, it will give them a little history about it. There's a photo of it, and so it allows the agent to sort of supplement the experience by having them use that app and follow them in the car. So as they're looking at properties and things, it's not just, dead air. They actually have something to listen to and learn about our area. So
that's awesome.
So so would you agree that this tool that you're mentioning could be explained or used to communicate better with RMCs?
Well, I mean, I think it's really more about the transferee and the experience that they have. But I think we should be, explaining how that works and what we can do. And in this particular group move situation, the RMC was delighted actually that we, found an alternative way to improve upon the experience. So yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we do these things and we don't always communicate it. We just assume that everybody knows that, what we're doing. So I think one of the things, and Teresa would probably agree with this, sometimes we're the best kept secret because we don't really tout, how all the innovative things we're doing. We just assume, everybody's doing that, but not necessarily.
So true. Hey, Kathy, can I ask you a question? So, how do you think the remote work situation is going to affect corporate relocation long term? Do you think there's going to be a long term effect?
Well, it depends. I think there's kind of the short term. I think people will be able to work remotely and, we'll have to see if it's sustainable in the long run. I actually hired somebody during the beginning parts of COVID, and it was very difficult to have them get integrated into our culture as a company. So I think, you can do that kind of maintenance wise for a while, but it's a little bit more difficult to do it longer term. I think as people, as we have herd immunity and people, start to get vaccinated and a little bit more comfortable, I think, we as Americans in particular tend to have short memories and we kind of slide back into the way we used to do things a little bit. So the other thing I think that's going to be really important in the long run is, the employer. Are they going to be able to allow their employee to work remotely? We've heard a little bit about the Nexus tax situation. Are companies able to file taxes, in all 50 states, or are they going to have, or even internationally? If they're not currently doing that, what kind of burden does that put on, their HR and tax departments and things like that? So I think that, in terms of relocation, if I can work in my basement, what's the point of me moving to a basement in a different state if I'm going to work remotely, right?
That costs more. That costs you more to work in that basement.
That's exactly right. And so I think companies will weigh the benefit versus the cost. And, I think they're really going to have to look at all of that. So I don't know long-term if it's sustainable. Now we have seen people, choosing to move to different locations. Cause I'm in Atlanta. We don't have any traffic, right? Pretty much like Los Angeles, no traffic. So people have to really think about, commute times and things like that when they're purchasing a house. But we're starting to see people say, hey, I only have to go to downtown 2 days a week. So, I can move further out in the suburbs. And they're looking for different things in homes, outdoor space and, home offices and flex space to school their children and home gyms and all those kinds of things. So, so the priorities of the consumers changing a little bit based on the fact that they believe that they can continue to work remotely, at least part-time.
So we want to, of course, get all back together again. And there's nothing like sitting down over a glass of wine or Coca-Cola or coffee and thrashing something out like, okay, now how can I help you do better? How can my company help your company do better? And, how can we be more supportive of each other? And we're being emotive here, but a lot of people can't be for whatever the reason online. And so there's a lot of miscommunications or non-communications the past year. So Teresa and Kathy, would you like to each summarize in commentary form about how, from your perspective, relocation directors and brokers can be more supportive of the other partners within the industry?
Well, I'll go first and then turn it to Kathy. I think the supply chain has elevated in importance significantly during COVID because of what Kathy mentioned earlier. And that is that every market, something different was happening. Nothing was the same. Each market was rolling out things differently, whether it was a necessary business or not. And so the RMCs had to depend really heavily on the brokers and the supply chain, the movers, everybody in the supply chain. And I think that's not a bad thing, that really elevated them in the eyes of the importance of the transaction. Kathy, do you agree?
I do. And I think too, through the years, going to ERC and RDC and all of that, it gives us a chance to have conversations with people to develop greater understanding of, like the household goods side of things. There's things that happen in their world that impact the relocation process, although it may not be, evident. Same thing in real estate. There's a lot of things that happen, like right now we're dealing with a lot of channel conflict where the transferee is a consumer and they're going online and they're essentially giving permission to be referred when the RMC thinks they already have, the permission to refer this person. So, so there's a lot of things that happen in our individual worlds that we really need to collaborate and figure out, how can we do this without stepping on each other's toes and support one another so that, to the end user, the transferee, it's a seamless process. But, if somebody in the supply chain drops the ball, it's going to reflect on the entire experience. And, and I mean, for years, the last few years, we've certainly heard about, the customer experience. What does that look like? So I think we don't live on an island. We really do, integrate with one another, and we have to figure out how we do that in a collaborative manner.
So what do you think, the ERC is going to grow and survive, or it's going to not decline, but get smaller, but get more intense?
So I think people, as companies look at their talent management in particular, that, they have to look internally, they have to look externally. I think relocation in some form or fashion is going to continue. I think we just have to be willing to adapt to whatever that
Yeah.
is. Maybe the services that we're delivering are going to look a little bit different or going to be done a little bit different. But, at the end of the day, I think we all, we may see a little bit of a setback in all of our respective worlds, right? But in the long run, I think, you just have to be willing to make the changes that are necessary to support your member. I mean, ERC is a member organization, so you got to support the members and be able to provide services that help them get through the difficult times as well.
I mean, there's,
Yes.
there's not any other organization that really brings all the suppliers together like that. So I think it's so important that every faction in the organization has a voice. And I feel like the new leadership is really in tune with that. And hopefully, based on the survey we got the other day, it looks like they're actually considering us having a live meeting in Chicago in the fall. And, I think everybody would really welcome that, just to be able to get back together finally. It'd be awesome.
That would be exciting,
Wouldn't it?
hopefully. Yeah. So I thank you both for being on Global TV Talk Show, and I welcome you back. We want to invite, going forward, we want to invite RDC members in particular from around the country to talk about, to tell their story about themselves, about the companies, about their marketplaces, and have a dialogue so that everyone can join in. So I thank you for doing this once again. Kathy Connelly, congrats on your leadership role on the board of WERC. Honored to have you and the organization represented on this program.
Thank you.
And to you, Teresa, again, thanks, and please come back again.
Absolutely. Anytime, Ed. Thank you always for giving us all a voice.
Absolutely.
It's my job these days, is to provide a platform. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.